Hi, hello everybody, and welcome to this live stream from and brought to you by Semrush. Now, Semrush has got a great reputation for finding the very best speakers, and they really have outdone themselves this time because we have today the YouTube legend, that is, a Mr. Tim Schmoyer. Welcome,
Legend.
Tim.
Wow.
How are
Thank
you?
you. I'm doing okay. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. So thank you again for joining us. Could you tell us where you're filming at today?
I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio area. Yeah. So that swing state everyone was worried about.
Brilliant. Well, it's great to have you here. I'm streaming from the UK. I know we get quite a lot of people all over the world watching the Semrush webinars and Q&A. So if you are watching, please drop a comment and tell us where you are. I'd love to see where everyone's coming from. So hi, it's Ma. Nice to see you again. Wow. Hi from Florida. That's great to see people. Oh, from Cyprus. Brilliant. So my name is Sadie Sherran, and I am director at Falkon Digital, which is a UK digital marketing agency. My background is in technical SEO. There's my husband. Hi, Luke. But more recently, we've been veering more towards video marketing, YouTube SEO, video SERPs, and using video for brand exposure and conversion rate optimization. Now, when I was a kid, I really wanted to be a fire engine. Yes, fire engine, not a firefighter. I wanted to be a fire engine. There was no glass ceiling in my world. I could be whatever I wanted. But today, if you ask a child what they want to be, studies have shown that a third of children either in the UK or the US want to be YouTubers. So Tim, you have been in the YouTube industry for, well, before it was cool. I mean, in 2006, you've been helping creators build their channels. How did you get into that?
Yeah. I have a quick little story here for you guys. Should I start sharing my screen here so
Yeah.
you guys can check this out? This is a little bit of my story. Thanks for having me, by the way. Is that working for you guys? You see it?
Yep, that was great.
All right, cool. Yeah, so I'm excited to dive into this with you guys today. I started to answer your question, Sadie. My very first video was on March 2nd, 2006. I was in graduate school down in Dallas, Texas, and I just wanted to know, could I get video footage off of this little Firewire device and onto this brand new platform that had just opened its doors a few months prior called YouTube. And I was dating this girl and I wanted a way of figuring out, how do I introduce her to my family back home across the country? And so we would make little videos that today we would know as vlogs, but back then that wasn't a word. It was just, being awkward in public with a camera. And we'd make little videos going out to the park, going out to eat, going to movies and things like that. And I would publish these videos on YouTube, send the links, email the links back to my family. And I was like, this is great. I don't have to send, attach an MOV file, and that they have the download, that keep it under 25 meg. They can click play and watch it immediately. But other people started watching, and that's like back in MySpace days. I was getting a little nervous because back then you don't use your real name on the internet. If you did, people would hunt you down and kill you for some reason. And so I was getting a little bit nervous when I saw other people outside my family watching and commenting and be like, who is Catlicker72? And why do they keep commenting on my videos? Like, what's going on here? Should I be concerned? And so I started reaching out to other people at that time, asking them, like, how does this platform working? Like, how are people finding me? Why do they keep coming back? Why are they still watching? And at that time in 2006, people were like, we don't know, Tim, but if you figure it out, let us know. We would love to know the answer to that as well. And so I liked a good problem. So I started diving into it. We kept making videos, everything from our engagement to our wedding, our honeymoon, our first house, first job. And at that time, we were doing about 1 million views a month on YouTube, which back then was unheard of. That was like ridiculous. And so other people started reaching out to me. They're like, Tim, how are you doing this? And I started at that time, even before when YouTube was getting started. YouTube started contracting me to train their employees how to do their jobs. And I was like writing a lot of the curriculum that YouTube was using to educate their creators and their even their internal teams. And So I was there with YouTube from the very, very beginning. And then in 2013 started this agency, Video Creators, where we are all about helping people grow their audience on YouTube so they can reach more people, change their lives. And we've done strategy for Disney, for Warner Brothers, for eBay, Budweiser, HBO, a lot of big brands, all the way down to just small business owners and hobby creators who are just getting started, organically helping all of them grow by over 17 billion views on YouTube and
Wow.
71 million subscribers views that we can actually take credit for, that we've been able to help our clients grow. So we love it. It's been awesome. I actually ended up marrying that lady, and we somehow managed to have 7 kids in 8 years.
Wow. I did wonder if that was your wife. Yeah, that's brilliant. It's amazing.
Yeah, we got married, and she's still with me, which is awesome. Feel very blessed and fortunate to have such a amazing family. So
Your family's gorgeous, Tim.
Thank you. Yeah, they take after their mother, not me. But yeah, so we live here in Cincinnati, Ohio, homeschool our kids and run a business online, which now is what everyone's doing. But again, we were doing that before it was cool as well, I guess. So yeah, so that's a little bit of my story. I can dive into a little bit of a topic here about YouTube goals, or do you have something else you want to dive into first, Sadie?
No, I mean, it's quite funny because I met my husband on MySpace. So we're all connected. But yeah, no, I'd really be interested to hear about how it is you get started with your clients when you're working with creators or when you're working with brands.
Yeah, well, I know like one of the biggest questions that a lot of creators have is, how do I get discovered on YouTube? And we're not going to talk about this long because I really want to make sure that we're spending most of our time answering your questions. If you guys are here, like Sadie and I both want to help you guys out with the things that you're working on and the objectives you're trying to reach and accomplish on YouTube. So we will make this mostly about you, but to kind of kick us off, since I'm expecting there's going to be a lot of discoverability questions, I want to talk at a high level how discoverability on YouTube works. And the way we approach this with our team, I feel extremely confident after 17 billion views organically grown and 71 million subscribers. And that was as of like earlier this year. I don't know where it's at right now. I got to look at the stats, but the way we approach this is like, if we understand what YouTube's goals are, then we can craft content that helps YouTube accomplish those goals. And if our content helps YouTube accomplish their goals, then they will be far more likely to surface our content and put it in front of people. And so if we understand what the YouTube algorithms are trying to do, and we can help them accomplish those things, then we will win. And the goal of the algorithm is to surface the right video to the right person at the right time. Okay, so how does all of these complex systems, how do they do that? Deliver the right video to the right person at the right time. Well, they look at a couple of different things that are known as viewer signals, which you guys as Semrush people know what those are. But these are the major factors that YouTube looks at to determine what video they should surface and to whom they should surface it to. So one of the first things, we'll go through some of these pretty quickly here, the first 3, because I think these are the ones that you guys are most familiar with. So very quickly, they're looking for the first 3 things is what videos start the viewing session for viewers, and what videos bring people back. And when they come to YouTube, what do they want to see? You can see that in your analytics, so simply by looking at traffic that's coming from the homepage. Those are often the videos they're putting right in front of people there on the homepage. The second thing they want to know is like, okay, we see what people are clicking on when they get here, but then how much time do they spend watching it? And that's measured in watch time. Like the longer someone spends watching a video, the more valuable YouTube deems that video to be for someone. And so if someone spends 5 minutes watching your video and 2 minutes watching someone else's, all other things being considered equal, which they never are, but let's assume that they are, then your 5-minute video should outperform the 2-minute video. But it's not as simple as just that, because they're also measuring the overall viewing session, which is, well, maybe someone only spends 2 minutes watching this video, but they stay on YouTube for another 30 minutes after watching this video. Whereas even though they spend twice as much time on your video, they only watch for maybe another 2 minutes and then abandon YouTube. So they also want to know like what gets them here, what do they watch when they're here, and then what keeps them here the longest. But they started running into problems with this because they started figuring out, oh, we can make really long viewing sessions. But then they found that like some of the content that keeps people here the longest was not content that really made people feel good about their viewing session. In fact, what would happen is like a couple of days later, a few weeks later, that person just doesn't return to YouTube because they only spent like 2 hours like the day before. It didn't end as a good viewing experience. And so now YouTube looks at this from a different perspective. They're saying not all watch time is considered equal. The biggest thing now that is the thing that YouTube is really looking for is satisfaction. So how satisfied is the viewer with the videos that they have here? And so now YouTube doesn't only want to just surface videos that people watch, but they want to surface videos that people indicated are valuable to them based on these viewer signals, but also based on satisfaction. And they measure that very briefly in terms of a lot of different signals, but the main one being the satisfaction surveys that maybe you guys have noticed showing up on the home feed with the video. They will ask a little survey before you watch the video that says like, you know, how is this do you feel like this is a good video recommendation for you? And then they also have a survey that could play out at the end of other content. It's like, hey, what did you think about this video? It's just like a quick little emoji that you tap, and they're collecting millions of those a day. And they are getting very, very accurate at figuring out what type of person and what type of viewer will be satisfied with what type of content. So what I'm not saying here though, is that, and this is what most people get hung up on, these are all viewer signals. In fact, what's happening here is the way you get a video to rank #1 and be positioned favorably on YouTube is to make content that people react favorably to, I don't know, whenever they watch it. And so what most people think of is about the metadata, or it's about the keywords, or it's about the tags. And YouTube is like, no, we are not a platform that is trying to find viewers for videos. We are a platform that's trying to find videos for people, for video. Let me give you an example of this, and then we'll kind of jump into some Q&A here.
This from an SEO point of view, a lot of SEOs, we do get, because we're so used to changing those things on a website, getting really down to the technical, the things that we can control, the keyword research, the tags, the metadata. It's very easy for an SEO. And it was a big learning curve for me when I got into YouTube from SEO, that actually there are other things that are more important. And that's just like the icing on top sort of thing.
Oh, like all you have to do, like usually when I'm talking with someone who's like kind of wrestling with this, it's like, okay, look at the homepage of Google and look at the homepage of YouTube. They are very different platforms, right? Like one is like, you can only have one action right there in the middle. The other one's like that same search action's there, but it's kind of out of the way at the top. And the rest of it is a place they just want you to browse. Google does their job. If you click on a link and you're gone in a few seconds after making your query, YouTube does their job if they hold you there for hours. One hosts content, one doesn't. One wants you to just browse. You'd never go to Google just to like browse to see what's on Google, right? So they're very different platforms. And so you're absolutely right, Sadie, that we can't take this mentality of what we bring to Google search and just assume that they're owned by the same company and just flop it over to YouTube search. And typically all I have to ask people is when they're kind of in that mentality is like, okay, well, how's that working out for you so far? And you'd be like, well, I took a video from 10 views to 20 views. I'm like, all right, I'd rather take a video from 10 views to like 1 million views. And this is the stuff that does that.
Yeah.
So you see what on my screen right here, like you can see the search query at the top, how to draw a cat. For context.
It's like you're looking at my search history.
I think the next screenshot will be more like your search history, actually.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. But my daughter and I were in this coffee shop, and I was doing some work, and she wanted to watch some YouTube, and we had this deal with had her do this deal with our kids back then. Like, you can watch YouTube, but it has to be something educational. What do you want to learn at this point? And she's like, I want to learn how to draw a cat. So she was doing all these other searches prior to this one about melting crayons and different, kids stuff that she wanted to learn about. And so she's been watching YouTube for about a good half hour or so. And then I typed this in for her, how to draw a cat. She's on the iPad in a coffee shop. This pops up. Now, what stands out to you, Sadie, about this top result that's showing up for this?
It's not a cat.
It's not a cat. In fact, it's about a puppy. And the word cat isn't even in the description, the title, or anything. I don't want to put you on the spot, Sadie, but since you're the only person I can really talk to right now, what stands out to you about that top result that might have indicated that to YouTube that this is a good result for this query?
But it's had a lot of views.
A lot of views, yeah.
Yep.
Think about
quite
it
a
from my
long
daughter's
video.
perspective.
Pardon?
Think about it from my daughter's perspective. She's 6 years old.
Oh,
and
it's
she's been
cute.
watching all these kid videos, and then she searches for this. All she does is she sees that thumbnail. She's like, "Oh, that's a pretty kitty. I want to draw that." Tap, and she's right into it. And I'm like, "But what? That's not a okay. Guess you're gonna watch." Because YouTube has discovered that if we determine that there's a kid in front of this iPad right now, based on their view, and then they search for something like this, they have learned that a kid, this is the number one best result to surface to that kid. They don't care that it says husky or that it says dog. It doesn't say anything about a cat. They are surfacing the right video to the right person at the right time. And all the signals they collect about it have proven that that was true. And I saw it happen right before my eyes. And in fact, the next result is how to draw a cat easy, right? So that would technically be more accurate, but because of the viewing session, because of the device and everything, YouTube learned that this is the best result to surface to this person at this time. And they're right. And it has nothing to do with metadata. Now, we'll wrap it up with this. This is the same query, but on a desktop with no previous viewing history. They determined that there is probably adult. These are very different results here.
Yeah.
Right. And so they've determined this is likely an adult. They want to learn how to draw a more realistic cat rather than like a cartoony type of cat. And so if they determine that there's an adult here, this is the best results that they get. So I think you guys understand that results are very personalized. There's really not as much of a thing anymore as like ranking number one for everyone, because results are so personalized. They're based on so many different viewing signals. And so if you really want to dominate YouTube, it really comes down to optimizing for people, not for robots. That's like the main creed that we drive home with our clients is like YouTube's recommendation systems finds videos for viewers, not viewers for videos. And so if you really want to grow, you have to follow the audience and where they're at, and it's not about hacking the algorithm. It's about creating content that really gets your audience to be like, "Ooh, I want that. I want to click on that. I want to watch that. That's exactly what I've been looking for." And it's less about like I could give you lots of examples about it, but I think maybe we get to those in the Q&A. But that's kind of an overview of how we think about search and discoverability is pushing back. Like when we take clients from 2,000 subs a day to 39,000 subscribers per day in growth, that 100% of that, no, it's more like 97% of that traffic comes from homepage and suggested traffic. We're not even looking at search anymore. We're going after like, let's let YouTube put our videos in front of the right person at the right time, even if they're not even looking for it. And that's where explosive growth comes from.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, thank you. That was a really good explanation. Thank you so much for that. So we've had a few people put some questions forward. So I hope I pronounce this correctly. Alicia Korobka, sorry. So how to optimize videos for search if there's no statistical data on the queries and the volume is not known? Is there a way to optimize for a topic so that it ranks for keywords around the topic? I mean, I think this sort of follows on quite well to what you were saying about actually the keywords aren't what you should be looking at. It's what the user intent should be.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm going to sound like I'm contradicting myself a little bit, but I think there's a clear distinction here that we should probably point out. And that is that keywords still matter, but not from the perspective of like YouTube's algorithm cares what you're putting in there. They really do not care at all what you're putting in there. In fact, if we had time, I could show you behind the scenes of what the algorithm actually looks at. And they're looking at frame by frame what's in your content as it's uploading, and they're matching it against content ID. And they can tell if there's an ape or if you're wearing a hat and what brand sunglasses you have on. They know all that. So they know what the content is about without you even telling them. But keywords matter, again, from a human perspective, not from a robot perspective. Because if a viewer types in a certain query, let's say I'm typing in for like best Nike shoes to buy or something. Now I'm a viewer am indicating that I am looking for something about best Nike shoes to buy. And so I therefore expect that the content I'm looking for should say something about Nike shoes, buying, purchasing. Like those are the type of words that I'm looking for. And so it's not because I use those keywords that make the video now perform better. It's because those words are more closely aligned with what the value the viewer wants to consume. And thus that becomes a relevant topic, or I'm sorry, a relevant video for someone making that query. But it's not because it contains the keywords in it.
Yeah.
It's because the viewer is saying, this is the type of value I want to consume. And as long as we use like words that portray value, like we're expecting to see those things, and that indicates this is the value you want to consume. So it's still a viewer driven system.
Yeah.
It's not an algorithm driven system. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, we use keywords. We use tools like Semrush, of course, and we use keywords for our video marketing. But we don't get the video and then use the keywords. We do the keyword research before we've even thought about storyboarding, filming, anything, just to sort of, we'll have an idea, we'll have a goal, whether it's, to sell something or to give some sort of exposure, and we'll look at the keywords around that. So we won't be looking at just one keyword. We'll be looking at a multitude of keywords to find out which way to approach the video. And then we work on the video with guidance from the keywords. And so, there's certain words that will be more popular than others. So you know that that's a more popular way to go, direction to go. Not that it's necessarily going to be in your title or anything else. It's more about how you then storyboard the video and create a video that is going to give people what they're actually searching for and actually looking for.
Yeah, exactly. We don't use the word keywords anymore internally at my team, because keywords has this connotation of like, I got to put this word in this spot in order for this video to perform well.
Yeah.
Instead, we talk about a little bit closer to what you're talking about, which is we think about it more in terms of like, we call them topics, like, or ideas. Like this is like, we can do some keyword research, but we're actually doing some topic research.
Yeah.
And we're actually going to YouTube, because what we have found is there's a lot of valuable keyword tools out there, but when we do the actual query on YouTube, in an incognito window, which still isn't it's still going to be personalized. But even then, we'll see that, half the videos that are ranking number 1 for this thing don't even use this keyword in it. I have other screenshots and stuff we can go to and kind of point it out, but it's like, but you can tell that's still a relevant result, just like the husky puppy one was like, oh yeah, I wouldn't have thought. So we actually do the research on YouTube, see what YouTube's displaying, and then be like, okay, someone who's looking for this value that they typed in, then here's what YouTube deems to be the best results. And then we can see like, oh yeah, these are not the titles we were going to go with at all. So I don't know how far you want to go into that, but yeah, we think about more in terms of topics than keywords.
Yeah, that's great. So we've also had a question from John Butterfield, which was sent in a little bit before this the live feed started. Does Google scrape and index comments posted below YouTube for keyword search and discoverability?
No, yeah, I heard that so many times. The problem that people are doing here, they'll look at like, well, your videos need a lot of comments. Here's what the classic SEO study does, is they said, we analyze 100 gazillion billion videos on YouTube, and then sifted it down to the videos that were doing the best. What do they all have in common? And they said like, okay, so if you want your video to do well, you need a lot of comments, you need a lot of likes, you need a lot of backlinks, you need like all these things. And that made the video number 1. And we look at that, you're like, no, it's actually the exact opposite is true, in that
it's a whole correlation versus causation, isn't it?
Exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, it's like those videos perform well because it's good content that elicited a response from people. You can go out there and buy a whole bunch of comments and likes and stuff on Fiverr, and that video will still be dead. It's not about the views, and it's about the human response. So it's like those videos got views and comments because it was content that resonated with someone, not because they somehow got figured out how to get their audience to comment. So no, but everything, they don't index the comments, don't impact search rankings in order to have the number of likes that you have or the number of subscribers or anything like that. So it's all those signals YouTube says are too easy to game, and so they just don't look at those.
Yeah.
So.
You can get them on Fiverr.
Exactly, yeah. So it doesn't matter.
So we've got a question from Andy Simpson now. Have you got any recommendations for revitalizing old videos? So old videos that have been live for 6 months or a year or longer, are they lost in the YouTube graveyard?
No, they are not. Yeah. So I'll answer the question, but then there's probably a different way to think about this too. It's been our experience that a lot of the times, I don't want to say most of the time, because probably not most of the time, it's just more like a lot of the time, it's like that content just wasn't very good. And that takes like a little, like some sort of level of humility and self-awareness to kind of just like no creator can be like objective about their own content or even the content of their client. It's just like, yeah, you're doing awesome. I love your videos. I don't know why anyone else is watching it. It's because like no one else agrees with you, apparently. Right. So if people were engaging well with it, then it would be getting more views. But if it's not dead. So the first thing I'm saying is like, just kind of do a gut check and like, is this really the best video for someone on this topic or around the story or whatever? The second thing, and this is probably more practical of what you're actually asking, is we have certainly resurrected a lot of content. We're like, no, this is the best content. This is really solid. Like people ask this question all the time. Why are they not finding this video? And we will go back and update titles and thumbnails on that. And I don't want to say very frequently. That's probably a little too aggressive, but maybe about half the time we'll if the new title and thumbnail is better, then we will see that it performs better. Updating metadata, tags, descriptions, and captions don't matter either, by the way. I know a lot of people kind of think that if they cram keywords in the captions, that'll make a difference. Doesn't at all. But yeah, but updating title and thumbnail can if the content is solid. But if the content's not, then updating title and thumbnail is just kind of a waste.
Yeah, I mean, YouTube videos, it's also important to remember that those can do well for years. You know, it's not like if you put a video on Facebook, it's on your feed for a day, maybe 2 days, and then it's gone into the ether for God knows how long. YouTube is a platform that people go to consume video, and if you're putting the right thing out there, then those videos can like evergreen content that will just consistently do well. Yeah. And you just have to make sure, you know, I mean, obviously you might have some flash in the pan content that's newsjacking or isn't going to have that longevity, but you decide what type of content that was and whether you can reignite it or whether it deserves to be seen, I suppose.
Yeah. Yes. I don't want to go off into the rabbit trail. We should answer more questions or I'll just keep talking.
Yeah. So another SEO question from Will Morrissey. Do you label the file for the thumbnail with a description, and how many words can you use?
File name doesn't count. I was actually in the room when this myth started at VidCon about 4 years ago now, maybe 5 years ago. Yeah. There was a panel and there was some MCN, which multi-channel networks, which aren't as much of a thing now as they used to be, but one of their managers was saying, oh yeah, we do this and all these videos like did way better because we think YouTube, when they see the keywords in the file name, that's the first thing they know about that video. Mm-hmm. And YouTube has come out multiple times themselves and said like, that doesn't matter. We don't look at it. Doesn't make a difference. And it also makes sense when you understand what YouTube really wants is not to surface videos. In fact, this might be helpful. This is legitimately straight from YouTube. They said that anything that is classified or anything that the uploader has to do that the viewer doesn't care about is classified as a bug. Okay. So anything the uploader has to do that the viewer doesn't care about is classified as a bug. Mm. So that means the tags, they don't look at tags. And the only reason tags are still there is because sometimes they do use that for misspellings. If people have like, you know, they leave the C out of my name, maybe last name for Schmoyer, and they just kind of write SHMOYER or something. So like sometimes that's helpful, but for the most part, like tags, like the viewer doesn't care about your tags.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care about your captions. Most of them do. Some of them do, but it's usually the ESL people who do, and not the hard of hearing people do, which is what most people think.
Yeah. I mean, as an old school SEO, even though I know this, I still name my thumbnails when I'm uploading them in a description.
It's fine. Like, it helps
Just
you
category. And I
Yeah.
can't get out of it. That's why I was sort of like, I was reading it. I was like, I totally do that. Even though I know the answer to this, I really do that.
Yeah.
Well, I find YouTube absolutely amazing at what detail it can pick out from the video, though. I mean, we often play around with, is it Google Brain, where you upload your image and it tells you what it thinks of the image.
Yes. Yeah.
And I uploaded a black and white photo of my daughter, black and white, and it came up that this was a blonde girl. And I was like, how can you tell that it's blonde from a black and white photo? Yeah. And that she was happy because she was smiling, and there's no, it go through all, and she was a child, and I was just
the roll, tilt, and pan of the head and everything.
Yeah, all of this information from one picture when it's just a picture. There's no other data for it. I find it absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, you can upload my photo and it'll show you video creators, because it associates my face with that brand, even though like I might not have a video camera at all in the image. So it recognizes people.
I think I'm a little bit scared to upload my own photo. I don't know what might come out. So Jonathan DeVore has asked, how can you describe some of your topic research? What is it you do to research your topics?
Yeah, let me go through this really quickly, because again, all these are great questions, and I could spend like an hour talking about any of these, which I do on my own podcast sometimes. But for here, we're going to keep it try to keep it quick. So the quick version is that we start first with the target audience. It always starts with, who are we trying to reach? Who are we going after here? Like, so when we do our consultations and one-on-ones, we always start with the client, like, describe your most ideal viewer. If we're going to grow this to 1 million subscribers, like, who is that person going to be? And so we figure out who are we trying to reach, and then if it's an educational channel, what's the problem this person's trying to solve? If it's an entertainment channel, it's still the same question, but they're trying to solve different problems with entertainment than they are with education. And so once we have a really solid idea of who is it that we're going after on YouTube, then we start brainstorming we don't actually go after search, because we see much faster and explosive growth always from homepage and suggested traffic. Yeah. Where YouTube just puts it, like, in fact, if you look at all the traffic sources on YouTube, search is one of the smallest traffic sources of the overall volume that's available on YouTube. Everyone goes to the homepage before they even make a query, but not everyone who goes to the homepage is actually making a query. Some are just following the rabbit trails of videos, right? And so the suggested and homepage becomes far more powerful for discoverability than search. So that's what we're targeting. So this process is like probably a little bit more aligned for that than targeting search queries. But so who's the audience? And who's the ideal viewer, and then what are the problems that they're facing that we can help them solve, or whether it's entertainment or education. And then we say, like, well, what's some ideas that we have that, let's just call this target audience guy Tom. I just finished a session about an hour ago. Their guy's name was Tom. So let's say Tom, like, what would Tom click on if he saw this? Like, don't think keywords, don't think anything, just like, what would Tom click on if he saw this title and this thumbnail combination? Similarly to what you're saying, Sadie, like, let's figure out the content first before we even hit record. So we'll start with title and thumbnail. And then once usually a team of us will kind of brainstorm and go back and forth, and then kind of vote on one or two. And then after we have the title and thumbnail already figured out, then we'll go ahead and we'll be like, okay, how do we craft this content? Like, what is the expectation that the title and thumbnail is setting? So then what do the opening seconds need to be of this video that affirms to that viewer, yes, you're in the right place. What you clicked expecting to get is in this video, holds their attention. And then we will go ahead and just make that video. If we're targeting search traffic specifically, we'll deviate a little bit, and instead we'll figure out who Tom is and what his things are. And then we're like, what would Tom be searching for? And then we will just go in an incognito window on YouTube and just literally make those searches and those queries. And we're looking for a few things. We're looking for what videos are showing up like on the first page there, and we're paying very careful attention to the titles, because usually the search query that's made, there'll be some videos in there that match that pretty closely, but there's usually just about the same number of videos that don't match that as closely. And so we're paying attention to what you indicated, the user intent is what YouTube thinks that is when they're making this query. And so we look at all that, and then we pay attention to the titles and the thumbnails, how those two things work together to create some tension in the brain for the viewer that would cause them to click. We look at the opening seconds of that. And then we're also looking for which one of these videos looks like they have a lot of views compared to the amount of subscribers on the channel. So for example, if it's like a 5 million subscriber channel and a video has 1 million views on it, we're like, okay, that kind of makes sense. But if the video has 1 million views on it and the channel only has like 20,000 subscribers, then we're like, okay, this video has indicated that it will break outside of the channel's audience and can perform well. And so we pay a little bit more attention to that video itself. The next thing we do is then we want to know, well, what is this video still gaining momentum, or is it dead? Like, did it go big on Reddit once and then just kind of died, and that's why it got 1 million views? So we'll use like vidIQ, Chrome extensions, and other tools to kind of look at the historical data of the video to see if it's still getting momentum or not. And then we'll look at the suggested videos to that video. Like, what's the next video people naturally watch on their viewing session? Because sometimes like this video is going to be really hard to outrank to get on the first page of search results, but we could be the next video they click.
Be the recommended,
So then we go back to trying to target what's part 2 of this video look like, or we look at the comments. Everyone has this question that this video didn't answer. Let's make that video, or maybe they missed or like, for example, with one person with like a kid, like a kindergarten type of education channel for parents. And they had one of the really big video at that time in their niche was how to do golf ball paint, like 15 million views in like 6 months. It was just crazy. And they're like, okay, this is gonna be hard to top this one, but we'll make a similar video, like how to do golf ball paint with acorns. Like, not everyone has golf ball paint. And so we made the video of like how to do golf ball paint with acorns. And then that one rode the coattails of the first one and got hundreds of thousands of views a day, just spinning off from the other one being suggested next to the other one. So, so it's a combination of doing some research on YouTube, paying attention to titles of thumbnails, following the rabbit trail a little bit yourself. What videos is YouTube suggesting next based on this video, and get an idea of what YouTube thinks the viewing session will look like for a viewer who's searching for this. And then we very rarely end up making a video that's the title's the exact search query. We end up making something that can stand out from all the videos who are using the exact query, that as like, instead of doing like one client is an outdoor cooking channel. Instead of them being like how to roast chicken on this brand oven, instead like they have keywords in there, but they do this different method of roasting the chicken where they like split it open and like put it down, like spread out on the grill. And I was like, just put the way most people grill the chicken on the thumbnail with your method of growing on the thumbnail, like split it in half and be like a red X over this one, a green check mark, and just put the title, and the title just, you're doing it wrong. There's no keywords about grilling. There's no keywords about chicken. The thumbnail makes it abundantly clear what's happening, and it creates more tension and intrigue, which causes the person to click, which makes that video more likely to rank for grilling about chicken than if you had just straight up put the exact search query in the title. So makes it stand out better. So I think I'm just rambling now. Does all that make sense?
No, we do something quite similar, but we tend to plan out a few different thumbnails before we've even started filming, and usually photograph them first, and we look at what's going to stand out. So we might use a complete opposite contrasting color than what everybody else has done, just so that the viewer, the person, because they're tiny little thumbnails, you can't get a lot of information in there,
especially on
so
mobile.
it stands out. Exactly. So Ryan Foland has sent in a question. Have you got any advice on best practices for videos that are an hour long, so podcast interviews? He's got quite a lot that need to be released, and he wants to think about the best strategy.
Yeah, this is interesting because my answer on this a few weeks ago is not the same answer as it is today, because I think I'm allowed to say this. I'm not sure. I'm under a few NDAs. I think that I can say this, which is that, let me just say it
You
this
won't
way.
tell anyone. It's
I'll be
okay.
a little
You
safer
and me,
about
just you
this.
and me. It's fine.
YouTube is going to be doing some things that will make audio, how should I say this? Not podcasts, but like videos that are primarily audio in nature. Make it, they're adding a thing that will make that content more consumable on YouTube. And so, and that will be coming probably later this month if it's not out already.
That
I'm not
sounds
sure.
really exciting, actually.
Yeah. And so they're looking at a few different signals. Again, it's all viewer signals. It's not like there's nothing you do to indicate to YouTube that this needs to be indexed this certain way. They're looking at signals like, oh, we found that most people watch this in a background tab, or most people minimize this, or if they have YouTube Premium, they learned that most people just listen to this on their phone minimized and not, they're not watching it. And that doesn't have to do with content length or anything. So there's some interesting things that are coming with that. So to answer your question, I think you're going to have an easier time with that content going forward here pretty soon than you would have in the past. In terms of optimizing it, I would, it's all changing. So, and until it rolls out, it's hard to talk about what it is. Let me just say, optimize the way you would normally optimize a video, and for a viewer, and just let YouTube figure out the rest. That's probably the best answer right now. And they will, and they're super smart, and
Yeah.
like the algorithms are ridiculous. So that means like reward benefit driven titles instead of like descriptive titles that create more intrigue. And yes, the only other thing I would say on YouTube is to make sure in the description you're adding time codes to it, and
Yeah.
that'll
The
add these little
chapters.
chapters,
Yeah.
across the player on YouTube, so people can easily skip ahead and get to different sections of your video.
Yeah.
So I would definitely do that. So
Yeah.
sorry, that
I
was
did
not a
wonder
very
about the
good answer.
chapters when you started saying that there was that they were going to change the way that podcasts are going. I did wonder, because of obviously chapters is quite new, if they were kind of going down the route of audiobooks kind of thing. So
somewhat, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so Team Hazard Rise Again. Would you recommend having a certain size audience before live streaming, or would you just go and help and do it? Does it help if you have a single subject for your live stream?
I missed. Let me rephrase that. So you should.
Yeah,
Is it
so
best if
if
you have one topic for the live stream versus just like, hey, what do you guys want to talk about?
there's quite a lot of questions in there. So
Oh, here we go. Thank you.
So if you're going to do a live stream such as this, I mean, obviously Semrush, they've got quite a big following. They've got globally loads of people, loads of fans. So it's quite a safe live stream that people are going to be watching, and people are going to be commenting. We've had loads of questions, which has been absolutely amazing. Thank you, guys. So if you had a smaller channel, would you recommend live streaming?
Yeah.
And
I would, for a few reasons, because one is like you learn a lot and you make a lot of mistakes when you live stream, and it's better to make those mistakes and learn those lessons with a smaller audience than when a larger one. So, and it's just even comes down to like feeling comfortable on camera and knowing how to manage everything that's happening behind the scenes, and whether or not you're like got someone cool like Kate who's behind the scenes here kind of bringing questions up and stuff. But not everyone has that. So if you got to learn to manage all that stuff on your own. So yes, I would, just for the practice and the skill, like learning the skill. The second reason I would is because a lot of people, like it's a different experience when you're live. Even if, let's say you have two people show up, just two, that, like, you can make those two people feel like the most amazing two people in the world.
Yeah.
And they won't care. Like, your audience doesn't care how many people are there. They're not looking at like, oh, there's only 2 people here, so I'm out. If you make them feel like you're talking directly to them, you're going to probably go away with that live stream with only 2 viewers and the 2 most loyal viewers you could probably have going forward. Right. So it's an amazing tool for community and audience development.
Yeah.
As well.
I think that goes with anything on YouTube, really. If you look after your audience, they're going to look after you. We work with some very small brands and we build their channel up. So, you know, small businesses who nobody's heard of. And it's a case of, instead of how am I going to get loads and loads of subs, don't worry about subs. You know, what's the goal? It's brand awareness. It's to turn them into loyal customers. It's to have that loyalty. You have to give them something. And if you can give them something that is worth something, whether it's one person, 100,000, million, then that's good content and you're going to be successful. And it's just scalable, really.
Yeah.
So
yeah, in terms of like, should you have one topic or not? If it's like an educational channel, I found like having a subject matter typically helps kind of like hone in the conversation to one direction. But if it's a more education or entertainment channel, then typically what people want is just access to the personality. And so you don't really necessarily need to have a topic then, because people aren't on the channel primarily for education. They're on the channel primarily for a perceived relationship. And that makes a big difference in how you present the content.
Very good. Thank you. So Padmatch Realty, Ron Campbell has asked, have you got any recommendations for learning resources for beginners who are just learning to create video for YouTube?
Is that an invitation to pitch?
I was about to suggest, because, you know, that we started. So go on. We started.
Well, yeah, I didn't come here to pitch anything, but if you're asking, I'll just say real quick, you go to videocreators.com/30 days. That's our course that gets into everything about how to optimize and set up your channel. So first time viewers can be like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I need. And there's certain signals that they need to pick up on. There's certain branding elements that you need to have in the right places, doing the right things. And so that course will take you through how to optimize your channel for growth and discoverability. So it's pretty in-depth.
I can also say that I would say I would give a good review for that as well, because we've actually done that course in the office quite a few years back when it was when you first launched it. It was one of the first things that got us set on our way to start doing our own experiments. And yeah, it's a really good resource, and I think it's definitely a recommendation from us.
Oh, thank you. Was it a few years ago, you said? I think I just updated it earlier this year. So you should have free it's like lifetime access. If you log in, it's like all completely new and updated, and not all completely new, but yeah, it's all been updated and turned into video content instead of a guide, I think is what you're talking about, the PDF.
Yeah, it was the PDF that we got.
Yeah. So yeah, you should log in and you don't have to pay anything. Get access to it. Yeah.
Brilliant. We will do that. Okay, so Sean Martin, for similar topics, sort of food recipes, should we consider a cut for YouTube versus the videos in the actual recipe because of user behavior differences?
For similar topics, food recipes, should we consider a cut for YouTube? Oh, I see what you're saying. Or the actual recipe. It sounds like, Sean, what you're saying is like you publish one version of it elsewhere. Should we make a different version of it for YouTube? And I don't know the answer without seeing the content and how it's being cut. But
we tend to do this when we're doing cross-platform promotion, because we try to send people to the YouTube video from other platforms. So we'll do like a little cut, of very small cut, and go to YouTube. Just because we don't want to release the full video until we've really got that first influx of visitors and traffic to a video. But I suppose it really is dependent on where you're posting it, what type of content it is.
Yeah, I think I need more information to answer that. But yeah, there, generally speaking, there definitely is a way to edit for YouTube. When we have worked with a few A-list celebrities, as well as television networks and television shows. We just wrapped up with MTV actually earlier this year. And what they try to do is take content that's cut for TV and make it work on YouTube. And that just never works.
No.
And so even then, what's cut for TV works a certain way because the viewer has a different expectation. Like the viewing environment changes the expectation that the viewer has for the content itself.
Yeah.
So when you're leaning back in your chair on the iPad, eating dinner, talking to other people in the room, and the television's going, it's a much more passive viewing experience than when you're leaning in on your mobile and you're not distracted, you're not multitasking. And and the screen size, it's a different viewing environment. So even then, to make the television content work on YouTube, it has to be recut. And especially for discoverability. Well, a lot of times these celebrities assume that their channel should just grow because
They're
like
awesome.
everyone knows who I am. Yeah, everyone will want to watch. And then they quickly find out that like, nope, that's not the case. And it's a little bit humbling for them sometimes. And very few have actually made that turn. I have lots of stories around that. But yeah, so it does need to be cut specifically for YouTube. There is a way to edit and craft a story for YouTube that's different than other platforms.
Okay, Matthew Books has got a question about video categories. He says, how do you fit a round peg into what seems like a square hole? I suppose that's because some of the categories are quite limited, aren't they?
Yeah, the categories don't matter. That's one of those things like with tags, people like if you know that video categories are, Matthew, you've been around YouTube for a while. So that's a little check mark of credibility for you. But YouTube doesn't look at them. I would just set like in your channel defaults page, for all your uploads, just pick one that's kind of general, like fits maybe the best for the channel, and then just leave it. It doesn't matter.
Okay, so George Jones said, you mentioned that YouTube uses Content ID to review your video frame by frame. Is this the same thing as Google's Cloud Video Intelligence API, or is it something different?
It is different. Yeah. So I was using Content ID as more of a generic term because most people aren't as educated as you, George, and know that there are two different things there. So they are different, and they're different tools for different goals. So, but as you know, obviously YouTube is scanning your video while it uploads in multiple different ways for different reasons. And what they do with all that information is just mind blowing. So it's, they are two different things though.
Will Morrissey asks, as a realtor, what is the best way to make my videos about the listings? That's quite a specific question there.
Yeah, we work with several realtors. I'm not quite sure, like, how is he trying to optimize the video for the listing, or is he trying to like make a video about the house and get people to find the video when they want to find that house?
I'm not quite sure. I mean, maybe
I'm not sure either.
Let me have a look.
I'll just say generally speaking that when it comes to like geo-specific search queries, that you can tag a video with a geolocation, and then it's really comes back again to the same principle of like, what is someone who's looking for a house find the house? Find that specific house, or are they just moving to the area and looking for what houses are available?
We work with some realtors as well, and we try to we focus on YouTube video for more the personality of the realtor.
Yes,
so this is who you're going to be working with. Look at how great he is, and look at the showcase as well. The house, because the houses are gone so quickly as well. You've got to think of it as a bit of a lot more long-term goal. But we also look at, this is where we do use sort of descriptions and keywords, because we look at the video SERPs for this to try and get it to come up in the carousel. So it's slightly different way of optimizing the video for a slightly different goal. But again, it's just thinking about it in a different way, that actually you're selling your business and your presence and you as a realtor, rather than the individual listings. The individual listings are secondary. I think.
Right. That's exactly what we do. We like, it's about the personality. What do you believe about like this community and the home? So we think about it more as like the viewer is someone who's thinking about moving to that area, and they want to know what's the area like. And so the channel for the realtor becomes more of a local expert of like, best places to walk your dogs, like the best top dog parks in this community, or our favorite playgrounds for kids, or I don't know, like just stuff like that, depending on what the vibe of the community is, and make them local experts that
Yeah.
people.
Although with
Oh,
lockdown, having that video content of the houses is absolutely amazing, because you can do almost a virtual walkthrough, so you can
yeah.
limit the amount of people coming in and out of the house and stuff. So
Right.
there's sort of like secondary reasons for producing the video, and you have to
Yeah.
figure out what your goal is for each one, I suppose.
Yeah, we find the personality and like community driven stuff brings people into the channel. Then they find the listing video as a result of that. They're like, oh, that looks like a house, nice house, and I want to work with this realtor, and then they go from there. Yep.
So this is a good question from Co-Video. They want to optimize their YouTube channel. Can you tell us the top 3 things that they should focus on?
The first thing I would ask is optimize for what? Optimize for views, for subscribers, for sales, for revenue, for like there's a couple different optimization things that you optimize for. But let's assume usually when people ask this, that they're probably thinking views and subscribers.
Yeah.
So the first thing is that it needs to be drop dead, stupid, simple, clear. For that first time viewer, they're asking the 2 questions kind of subliminally: is this for me, and do I care about it? And so how do you answer both of those questions in like literally a half second, like a finger snap? How quickly can they pick up on that? Because if they did a lot of homework and maybe watched a bunch of your videos, maybe they could figure it out, but they're not going to do that. So that channel art, and that's what the course video, or 30 Days to Better YouTube channel will walk you through this entire optimization is how do you optimize your entire channel for views and subscribers. It's like, what's the first thing they need to see in that channel art? And then it's the channel trailer. It's the sections beneath are like sub headlines, sales pitches for the channel. They're not just like WordPress categories where all of your house listings are here, and then all of your like community, whatever houses, like it's like these houses will make you feel immediately at home or something. Like it's a much better headline / section title than just, because people are literally, they're on your channel, they swipe up, the first thing off the top of the screen is that channel art is there for like a half second. They're skimming all this really fast, so they're very rarely taking time to like actually read, and that's why it needs to make sense really quickly. So what does your target audience need to see and to immediately feel like, oh, this is for me? Where have you been my whole life? This is exactly what I've been looking for. And then that value that they're going to consume and get from you, how obvious is that? And I have found that most brands, and it's not like a criticism, because like we all do this, like we're all in our own world so much that it's really hard for us to see from like someone else's perspective, like a first time viewer, what it looks like. Because like I worked with a channel, like I said just earlier today, and they were in that same place. We're like, oh, it makes perfect sense to us. And I'm like, yes, but I am actually in your target audience, like a middle-aged male who needs to start exercising more and get fit and has some of these other issues. That means I can't do some of these other things. And so like, I'm exactly your target audience. I did a lot of research to plan for our session, and I still didn't know that this was for me.
Yeah.
Right. And that's when you're optimizing for your content for growth, you really have to optimize this for that first time viewer who knows nothing about you, never heard of you before, and frankly just doesn't even care. They're just there because that title and thumbnail pitch the value that they want to consume, and they're there to get more of that. Did I answer the question, or did I just go all the way around it and never really hit it?
I think you've answered the question for me. You did also mention about sales as well as views and subs, but I suppose that really depends on what you're putting in the video. And I mean, using YouTube for sales, how would you recommend doing that? Because you're going to be taking somebody away from the YouTube to make a sale. But does YouTube take into that satisfaction consideration that although they're leaving on this occasion, they're going to come back at a later date? Or
they do, yeah, they do measure how the viewing session brings them back later.
Yeah.
But in this case, I'll run through this very, very quickly, because it's normally like, again, like another hour-long conversation. But very general overview of a content strategy that we typically do with clients is rather than doing what most video marketers do, they don't do this anywhere else in marketing world, but we forget it when we come to YouTube for some reason. It's like we have 15 different goals for one piece of content. We want every video to get lots of views, get lots of subscribers, get lots of comments, get lots of likes. We want to generate a lot of leads, get a lot of sales. We want to rank #1. We want to go big on Reddit. We want it to like be highly shareable. We want and you can't make one piece of content do all these things. So we were like, you're going to pick one goal and you're going to craft this piece of content to accomplish only this one thing. Mm-hmm. And there's 3 things that we craft content for, and each of them is their own bucket. So the first bucket is discoverable content. These are videos that we're crafting intentionally for a first time viewer, never heard of us before, really high value, probably higher production. And the only call to action there is to get someone to click and watch this next video. Right? Like, and there's no like, hope this was helpful, see you later. All those are very strong signals to the viewer that this video is over. You may now safely abandon it. No additional value is coming. Mm-hmm. So we avoid all that language and we get straight into here's the next thing you need to do. And there's a lot more that goes into that, but basically the click-through rate for our clients tends to go from around 0.7 to 1% to around 30% on average. Our highest is 42% click-through rate on the end screen to go and extend the viewing session. And when they extend the viewing session, that then makes that first video more likely to be discoverable. Okay. The second bucket is community content. And that's when these videos are not intended to go big. They're just intended to grow the know, like, and trust factors with our existing audience. And the only call to action here is to ask for some sort of engagement, whether like typically it's a comment of some kind. Well, that doesn't work for every channel, every brand, but some sort of engagement, like, let's engage in some way where it'd be like, let's say comments, for example, like, this is how I think you should do it, but I like know that you guys have all these other ideas of how this could be done. Comment below, share those with each other. If you're trying to figure this out, read those comments. You're going to learn way more from the people down there than you ever would have learned from me. I learn from you guys all the time. Thanks for being a part of this. Like, just really give it a good solid, like, I want to interact with you. I want to talk with you, interact with the brand. The last bucket is the sales bucket. And that's where we're still good, valuable content. It's not a commercial. It's good, valuable content, but it's creating an itch that then you're going to present a sale at the end. It doesn't have to be a sale.
Solving a problem.
Yeah. It could be any time you're ending the viewing session. So it could be buy, download, register, sign up, check out, like whatever, like click link down below that's above the fold, end screen card, like, and take a solid 1 or 2 minutes to pitch that thing and get people to take that action and go off site. That video, if people actually take you up on that offer, should then no longer really be performing well long-term, but that's okay. Because you're going to have the discoverable videos that are constantly bringing in new people. You're going to be building the relationship with the community and then generating the sale. So one client we worked with had around 80,000 subscribers, and they were just flat. They're like, Tim, we're trying to sell our Bitcoin course and we're making about $20,000 a month on it, but we are just like, how do we grow this? Because we know there's a lot more demand out there. So he did the same thing, stopped selling in every video and only sold in his sales videos, the discoverable, community, and sales. And the very next month, he 5x'd his channel growth for the first time in like ever. He 5x'd it, but he finally got growth the very next month on his channel. And he 5x'd his sales because of it. He went from 20,000 to 100,000 in sales in 1 month because he wasn't trying to do all these different things in one. He was taking them like the same thing we do with an email sequence. You have the lead magnet that leads into a nurturing campaign, which then leads to a sale. Is the exact same funnel, customer journey, whatever you want to call it, on our YouTube channel. So did I get that fast enough?
Yeah, I mean, we have gone a little bit over time, so we are going to have to wrap this up. But it's been absolutely brilliant to talk to you, Tim. Some fantastic insights into YouTube, and thank you so much for joining us. Where do people find you? I mean, we've still got loads of questions, but where can people find you online?
Yeah. I live stream every Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern time at youtube.com/video creators. And it's me and 2 of the other strategists on my team. And we just answer a lot of questions like this then. So we'd love to have you guys, or search for video creators in iTunes. We have a weekly podcast there as well, where we take a little bit, like a good solid hour to dive into some of these topics more in depth, rather than just like a quick 5-minute answer to a question that really deserves a longer explanation. But we do that kind of stuff there.
And of course, there is your 30-day challenge as well, your 30-day YouTube.
Oh yeah, 30 Days to Better YouTube channel. Yeah, if you want to dive into like a intentional course where you're going to get every day a training that you needed, something you need to learn, you're going to get assignments to do then right then and there on your channel, and then links to further resources if you really want to dive in. You can work through it at your own pace, so it's not limited to 30 days. You get access to the whole thing up front, but it's made to take about a month to really optimize your channel. So yeah, that's videocreators.com/30 days.
Fantastic. And thank you very much to the guys at Semrush for hosting this, organizing it, and everything. If you have missed any of this, there will be a replay on the Semrush webinar pages and the YouTube channel. So you can go back, and obviously, hopefully we'll be putting some chapters in there, which might help for people be able to find the right information at the right time. So my name is Sadie Sherran. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.
Thanks, guys.
Till next time.